our work with Government Day. Anybody remember the first thing? Haley, you remember?
Well, didn't we all give suggestions on what we wanted to be, to be our bill?
We did. We all gave suggestions. Who remembers what some of those crazy suggestions were that we started on that list? Tyson?
Boat.
Okay, a boat, a school boat. Let's have a school boat. Well, we'll all go out on the boat all day. What were some other ideas, Ethan?
A hot tub.
Okay, the hot tub, the Venice Elementary School hot tub. That's right. Lucy, what was another one?
A go-kart.
Okay, oh yes, the go-kart track. Remember how fabulous that would be. Haley, what else?
Competitive sports teams.
Okay, the competitive sports teams. Don't say that to Alexa. She'll get very upset. Okay, the competitive sports teams. What else, Troy?
Field goals.
Okay, field goals. That's right. We need field goals out at recess. Eli, you remember another one?
Gourmet chef.
Okay, oh, the gourmet chef for school, that's right. How great that would be to have in the cafeteria. Cass? We were doing some preparation skills for the students within our civics curriculum. A few years ago, the state came down and incorporated a pretty significant curriculum that was infused into our social studies regimen, and we really as a team tried to figure out how we were going to handle that. I had been involved in the youth and government program out of the Sarasota YMCA when I was in high school, and we used to go to Tallahassee and take over the state government for a number of days, and I really loved my experience there because I remembered everything that I did. So I started thinking about how we'd be able to incorporate that into our fifth graders' experience, and I think that our participation in our governmental processes really is ageless. Even though these students aren't 18 and they can't vote, they can still be really keen observers, and if they really start understanding these issues, even as young as 10, 11, or 12 years old, by the time they are 18 years old, or they are 21 years old, or they are in job positions where they can affect legislation, they will really understand and be enthusiastic about the process, and that's what we really hope to accomplish.
We had a Government Day packet about like this thick, and it had government information, like what the Senate and what the House of Representatives does. And we learned about like the government and like all types of government.
We've been talking about other jobs and how they all fit together to make everything possible at the White House and the Capitol building and the Supreme Court.
The first thing we actually learned about was Supreme Court, which, like for me, I was in there.
We have 9 Supreme Court justices, and what they do is they look at the legislation that our classes have proposed and they argue its constitutionality, not based on the U.S. Constitution, but based on the rules here at Venice Elementary School. And they write opinions on each piece of legislation, and part of their work will be delivered to the President by our cabinet, who will meet with the President after lunch, along with the Senate President Pro Tem and the House Speaker, and they provide for the President a list of the passed and failed initiatives. They provide the opinions of our Supreme Court.
Well, our Supreme Court was way different. Well, not really, but it was kind of different because we didn't actually do cases. We were debating about like the bills for the school. But in real life, they would actually sometimes debate about like whether laws are constitutional or unconstitutional, so I guess that was kind of the same.
And if you remember, we all took a vote on what our top 3 issues were, and that narrowed our list to the 5 that we spend a lot of time working in committees with. We came up with follow-up questions. You guys did a lot of research on them, and if you remember, the thing that we talked about was that out of all these ideas that we came up with, everything from the charter buses and the portable toilets for recess, which ended up getting no votes, to the 5 that we spent a lot of time with. Remember that we had 3 people originally on the water fountain committee, and yet somehow through all the research and especially the great debate that we had in here the other week, that's the one that our class decided to represent. So today, as you go to your work sessions, please remember that, again, this is America. It is your choice and your opinion with how to vote. We talked about just because this piece of legislation originated with our class doesn't necessarily mean that you may or may not support it if you are voting on it. But you have an obligation as a representative, as a senator, or as a representative to make sure that you understand what most of your people want you to vote for, because you shouldn't just be voting for yourself. You are voting to represent our class. So for Alexis in the Senate and our large number of representatives, and why do we have more representatives than any other class? Mayor? because we are the largest class. You are going to listen to all the legislation from all the classes. You have thought about lots of thoughtful questions. You've written persuasive papers on them. So please make sure you are active and you vote and you talk and you ask questions if you want to, because this is going to affect the rest of your time at Venice Elementary School. You have the potential for a water fountain, for nap time, for eating wherever you want at lunch, to be able to wear some different kind of shoes if you have the opportunity to do that.
Well, I think it's a really good subject because everybody, nobody's really concerned about getting dehydrated. They just want, they want nap time, they want to sit wherever you want, but I think we need a water fountain. It's not a want, it's a need. So if we were going to, if people were going to vote on something they wanted, I would say this is why you need a water fountain and not what you want. Put aside your wants before your needs.
Now the press corps and lobbyists are a little different because normally the only reason, Nick, you would be in the State of the Union address would be to do what? As a person in the press corps. Why would you be there? You would be there to create a story, to write pictures, to film for television. And so press corps and lobbyists, you guys hang out in the back. You don't get seats. So you get a chance to move around. You get a chance to go see everything that's happening there.
My role was press corps, and I got to go around to the Senate and the House of Representatives and Congress and ask them what bill they think should pass and why.
We're already going back to their homework.
The last group that we have working for Government Day is our press corps and our lobbyists, and they were visible in all the areas and trying to get stories, and they produce news snippets for our news or small articles. They take photographs for us for the day, and we really try to share with our students that it's just not our elected officials or appointed officials who are part of our government, but there are lots of people who comprise an influence on how our government works, and that would include lobbyists and press corps.
You excited for your role?
Yes. I'm so excited. I've been advertising all week.
You have been, I've noticed.
Water fountain.
How many of you really believe, first of all, who's in the press and who's a lobbyist here?
I'm a press.
Press? Okay, let's do this. I want all my press over here because you get to be at your computers because you're going to be typing up your articles. If you're a lobbyist, other side.
Most of them I found were for the dehydration legislation, which is a vote to put water fountains outside so that people don't get overheated.
Well, one of the best things we do as part of Government Day, which we find we're very unique at, is we have all the students propose a piece of legislation through their classes. We have a little bit of a unique angle for each class. For example, my class looks at our principal's discretionary budget, and they choose an item for which she should modify her spending or initiate new spending with. All the different classes go through a little bit of a different process to decide what kind of legislation they want to propose, but eventually it boils down into one act, and we actually write it on a form that's very similar to the forms that senators and representatives would submit for new legislation. And the whole centerpiece of what students did today revolved around those 4 pieces of legislation. 3 of them are actual bills that affect our rules here at Venice Elementary School, and the 4th one is a patent application that we do through our science fair process.
Miss Coleman's class made an invention that they want to patent. It's a shoe that's really cool, that it has a pedometer, and every 100 steps you take, it'll play music. There's Miss Hogan's class is doing, they want to sit wherever they want in the classroom. Miss Williams' class, they want nap time, which I don't really like.
Because even if everybody votes, yes, 5th graders should have nap time, House passes it, Senate passes it, if the president vetoes it, it's done, at least for the time being. Well, I think the most important thing to try to instill in kids is that everything we do in school is important and should have an effect later in their life. This happens to be a real practical piece with what we do for Government Day, but I think all teachers really try to create experiences for their students that they will remember.
It says no dehydration legislation, and it has a water drop. And some of them have it underwater, and there's different stickers. There's underwater, there's smiley faces that have 2 water droplets as the eyes. And the no dehydration legislation is where we want a water fountain outside because we don't want to be dehydrated.
And I believe it's 300 people a year die in Sarasota County from dehydration. I do know they did a little research on the cost, like $700 to install both the fountains, and they did where they think it should be. There's a place out at Recess. It's marked water, so there's already a source out there. It would make it much cheaper.
When you create a simulation like our team has created here at Venice Elementary School, you really, I think, take that memory piece to the max because students are remembering it because not only did they study it, it's coming from teachers who are very enthusiastic about the topic. So our expertise and our love of those things that have to do with the government is pinned on students. And then they're actually participating in it. They're doing it. They're not just studying about laws that have been passed. They have created personal pieces of legislation. And the best thing about this is we have such great support from our school administration that she is willing to enact these pieces for students so that it becomes real for them. And that whole piece from beginning to end is really what makes it such a great experience for our students and why we keep repeating it and refining it year after year. And up at the top of this page, it says check and balance. So now we need to talk about this today because a lot of times when we talk about the branches of government, they'll talk about how the government has a system of checks and balances. That whether you are part of the Supreme Court, whether you are part of the executive branch, or whether you are part of the legislative branch, there's a way to check each other. So let's Well, when I was in high school, I had a fabulous AP American History teacher who really just turned me on to American history in general, but also just what was going on currently in the United States. And I went to school in the 1980s during President Reagan's administration, and so it was definitely a feel-good time. I had the opportunity to participate in a program called Presidential Classroom when I was a junior in high school. And from that program, they selected a few of the participants, and we had an opportunity to become pages in Washington. I had the chance to page for Senator Robert Dole from Kansas, and he has always been a person who I greatly admire. But just being able to be in that role in D.C. and wear my blue blazer and run between the House and the Senate and go through the office buildings just really cemented my love of all things American. And I loved participating in that process because I learned so much as a young woman that has really translated for me and still is the same today as an adult now. And when I take a look at that experience, I love the fact that it really did instill lifelong learning in me, because here all these years later, I'm sharing part of my experience in Washington, D.C. with my current fifth graders, and I think that's a really important part of what I do as a teacher.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
We need to know all this stuff as a fifth grader because when our parents have the news on in the living room or something, we can watch it and we can know what's going on. We can know, and we can have our own opinion without just feeling whose last name is funnier.
Because when you get older, you might want to be a cabinet member or the president someday, and it's good to learn about it early on.
We get to act like we're part of the real U.S. government, and it's really fun.
Well, I think the most important thing that I do as a teacher for fifth grade is I model scholarship for students. That's a big thing with me. I've always been a good student myself, and to be able to instill in my students the fact that getting good grades are important, having good study skills are important, having really good work ethic skills are important. And I think that I model that for my students. I am a perpetual lifelong learner. I spend part of every summer traveling with National Endowment for the Humanities, learning about American history, and I share that with my students. I show them pieces that I work on, PowerPoint presentations or other papers I work on that I'm proud of. I try to constantly model for my students. I use my document camera a lot so that they can see, what does my handwriting look like? What does my grammar look like? And all that modeling I take very seriously as a teacher.
A great way to keep kids up and running, jogging and walking to their favorite songs.
In our media center today was the House of Representatives, and we have it there because it's the largest room and also represents our largest contingency of fifth graders. Anywhere from 5 to 7 fifth graders represent each of our classes, and their job, guided by their Speaker of the House of Representatives, who is the most senior member of the House, they propose all 4 pieces of legislation that the classes have worked on, and they debate it, and they come up with a list of passed and failed initiatives. And I have gotten reports that 3 of our measures have passed and 1 has failed. And so those 3 measures that have passed will go on to the president. You'll see something similar in the Senate, but of course it's a much smaller makeup because our Senate, like the United States Senate, is made up of 2 representatives from every class. Now I've also been told that the same 3 measures that passed in the House also passed in our Senate. So because we've had the measures passed in both the House and the Senate, those will go for consideration for our president to be signed into law.
I was a senator, and what I did is I basically just told what my law was that we were trying to get passed, and then we all voted on it.
It was really fun and exciting because I liked how we could just like share our opinions of the bill with like all the other people, and like some people disagreed, some people like agreed, and I thought it was really fun. And like getting all dressed up and pretending we're like the government.
And every January, if you remember Alex shared with us yesterday, the president gives a speech to tell people what's going on in the United States, and the name of that speech is, Glenn? The State of the Union, that's right. So Mrs. Baus, who is our president today, will be coming into the media center in the afternoon, and she will be sharing for us the State of the Union address. So she will take into account everything we did today at Government Day, and she will share with us what pieces of legislation she's seen, what passed, what failed, items that she vetoed, items that she signed into law. So that is a big formal event that happens. When I look at our students, they're transitioning to middle school, and that is certainly a volatile time, and there are a lot of people who are almost afraid of the middle school years. But when I take a look at our fifth graders, I know that I do my job as a teacher, and here at Venice Elementary School as a team, we have very high values for our fifth graders, and we do expect our fifth graders to be able to leave our school modeling great citizenship skills and being able to handle themselves personally very well with people, being polite, shaking hands. Those are all lifelong skills that are going to far transcend any FCAT testing or any end of class testing they're going to have once they get to middle school or high school. And so when I look at my fifth graders, I'm excited for them. First of all, sixth grade was my favorite year of schooling, and so I always try to share with them how, even though it's sad to be leaving elementary school, you should be excited at the years ahead of you. And I think by not fearing those years and by constantly just modeling that for my students, even though when we get to this time of year, it's sad for them, and a lot of them are leaving the only school they've known for the last 6 years, but I hope to share with them that there should be an excitement, that there is a whole new world of opportunity out there, and it's really going to be their choice to be able to grab that or not once they start middle school and go into high school.
Everyone in fifth grade knows everyone else because they've gone through, some of them have gone through 6 years with the same class.
Well, I've been going here for 6 years, and I just love it. My mom teaches here, and I have siblings that's been here, and my aunt used to work here, and so it's kind of like a family school. I guess everyone goes here.
Copy of the speech.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States. Thank you.
There they go. Well, I was elected as Teacher of the Year, and let me tell you, out of lots of awards that I've received through my career, it is a great source of honor for me to be selected from this faculty here at Venice Elementary. I've been here 10 years, and I have such an utmost respect for the staff that's here, most of whom who have been here long before I got here. I think anytime a group of teachers seriously considers their peers for an award like Teacher of the Year, it's the highest honor you can get because it's people who are engaged in the same day-to-day challenges and practice that you are. And that's what really means the most to me. And so having my bell from the district, that's a nice award, but getting that initial vote from this faculty really is what means the most to me. And I'm so proud to be able to represent this faculty because I'm a Venice person. I live here on the island of Venice, I work here on the island of Venice, and I love this neighborhood school. I think we have something very unique here among schools at Sarasota County. The great thing about Venice is most of us who live and work here grew up here as well, so we are multi-generational. We have been involved in this school and in this community well into our childhood, and so the relationships that we've established at this school I don't think can compare to any other campus.
My teacher, Dr. V, this is actually my first year in the gifted program at my school, and she's been like really great about it. She's like always super fun, and we do a lot of fun stuff learning.
She does very fun activities. She's creative and very smart.
I think she was chosen as Teacher of the Year because she's very fun and she knows what fifth graders like. She has a very fun classroom and it's got colors all around. It seems like a very happy classroom as opposed to some classrooms with nothing on the walls.
Well, she is absolutely the best teacher I have ever had. She does a lot of fun and different things.
She's really fun and she mixes that with her teaching, and she's really, really nice, and she gets the job done with you.
She's a really great teacher, and I mean, I had her in first grade too, and she is just a really good teacher.